Before we dive into tonight's story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button like you're waiting for room service at a 5-star hotel. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we've got cooking.
Story 1.
The notification appeared on my phone out of nowhere, no download, no prompt, just a mysterious icon labeled Fate Finder. Curiosity mingled with unease as I tapped it. Half I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen. The rational part of my mind screamed that this was nonsense, a prank or a marketing gimmick gone wrong. But a nagging curiosity compelled me to tap yes. What harm could a silly app do anyway? The screen flickered, processing my request, before displaying the chilling words, "Your friend, Jerome, will be your murderer." My blood ran cold as a shiver crept down my spine. Jerome, my best friend since college. The guy who had stood by me through thick and thin. How could this be possible? I tried to shake off the app's prediction as absurd. Jerome was loyal and dependable, the last person I would suspect of harboring dark intentions. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it took root in the recesses of my mind, growing with each passing day. Fate Finder didn't let me forget its prediction. Periodic reminders popped up at the most inconvenient times during meetings in the middle of the night, even when I was out with friends. No matter how many times I tried to delete the app, it reappeared on my phone like a persistent specter, taunting me with its ominous message. I couldn't bear the weight of uncertainty alone, so I confided in Jerome. His reaction was a mixture of disbelief and amusement. "Come on, man, it's just an app," he reassured me, his voice tinged with skepticism. "You can't seriously believe that nonsense, can you?" I wanted to believe him, to laugh off Fate Finder's prediction as a glitch in the digital ether. But as the days turned into weeks, I found myself watching Jerome with a wary eye, analyzing his every word and gesture for any hint of deception. Each time, he remained the same steadfast friend I had always known, his easy smile and infectious laughter dispelling my doubts for a time. One evening, Jerome invited me over to his apartment for dinner. As we sat across from each other, savoring homemade lasagna and swapping stories, the weight of Fate Finder's prediction hung heavy in the air between us. I tried to ignore the gnawing unease in the pit of my stomach, but it was impossible to escape the app's relentless grip on my thoughts. After dinner, we retreated to the living room, where Jerome suggested we watch a horror movie to lighten the mood. I agreed reluctantly, my mind racing with unanswered questions and unspoken fears. The movie played on the screen, the sound of eerie music and distant screams filling the room with a palpable tension. Halfway through the movie, Jerome excused himself to fetch more popcorn from the kitchen. Alone in the dimly lit room, I tried to focus on the movie, to lose myself in the fictional horrors unfolding on screen. But Fate Finder's prophecy loomed large in my mind, casting a shadow over everything I held dear. Minutes stretched into an eternity as I waited for Jerome to return. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant hum of the refrigerator and the muffled sounds of the movie playing in the background. A sense of dread settled over me like a heavy blanket, suffocating me with its oppressive weight. Just as I was about to call out to Jerome, a piercing scream shattered the silence, echoing through the apartment with bone-chilling clarity. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I bolted from the couch, heart pounding in my chest. I raced toward the kitchen, dread clawing at my insides. What I found there defied all logic and reason. Jerome lay sprawled on the kitchen floor, his body twisted at an unnatural angle, blood pooling around him in a dark, ominous puddle. Shock rooted me to the spot as I stared down at his lifeless form. Disbelief and horror warring within me. Was the app incorrect? The police arrived soon after, their questions a blur of noise in the haze of my fractured reality. They ruled Jerome's death as a tragic accident, a fall down the stairs that had claimed his life in an instant. But I knew the truth, or at least I thought I did. Weeks passed in a blur of grief and unanswered questions. I buried myself in work, trying to drown out the nightmares that haunted my sleepless nights. But Fate Finder's prediction lingered in the darkest corners of my mind, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictability of fate. One night, as I lay awake in bed, tormented by memories of that fateful evening, a notification from Fate Finder flashed on my phone. With trembling hands, I opened the app, half expecting to see Jerome's face staring back at me from the screen. Instead, a new message appeared, sending a chill down my spine. "You will be your own murderer." The words hit me like a sledgehammer, their implications too horrifying to comprehend. Had Fate Finder been right all along, not about Jerome but about me? Was I destined to meet the same tragic fate that had befallen my best friend? In a desperate bid for answers, I delved deeper into the app's interface, scouring every menu and submeta for clues. But there were no explanations, no rationalizations, only the cold, unfeeling words of a digital oracle that had shattered my world beyond repair. When I set my phone down, I received a notification from Fate Finder. Incoming video call. Say hi to Jerome.
Story 2.
I don't know who to trust in my life anymore, so I am coming to the one place I still have hope for to help me in my situation. My name is Joshua and I have had a best friend since kindergarten. His name is Ryan. He and I would frequent this community because of our shared interest in creepy internet stories, the occult, and such things, but also because of our shared struggles with insomnia. As children, we were always doing things together. We would make paper airplanes during recess and geek out over dinosaurs and other science-related content from Childcraft books I bought from my home. Childcraft was a series of books for children covering a multitude of topics and hobbies such as art, English, science, and math. Even as young adults in high school, we would be inseparable. His eccentric personality was the perfect match for my introverted one, helping me to blossom as a more talkative person. As college came and went, so did our regular gatherings, but Discord was the perfect solution. With this, we had more sleepless nights, but this subreddit kept us company until we would just pass out. This was our weekly routine for 10 years. Now it's been 1 month and I can't reach him. Not with phone calls or texts. His phone number is out of service and his apartment has no one in the room he was staying at. I told my mom about this and she just told me, "Who?" I know it had been a while since she'd seen him, and after pressing her about it, she just nodded in agreement and told me to call his parents then. So I did. Hi Mrs. S. I said, "This is Joshua R. I've had a stutter all my life, so the people who knew me, it wasn't a surprise. I heard sounds like shuffling, and then a man's voice came on the phone. It was a tenor with a Creole accent. Ryan's father. Hello?" He said. "Who is this?" I took a deep breath and reiterated more clearly but hurriedly. "It's your son's best friend, Joshua. I know you haven't seen me in some time, but I've been having some issues getting in contact with your son. Would you happen to know where he is? I know his father cut me off right there." "Why, I'm sorry, you must have got the wrong house. We don't have a son or any children of our own," he said in a stoic tone but not with force. I turned my head in confusion. I looked down and it was the number I had written down and saved in my phone as his parents' number. "I'm sorry, are you sure? Because I have his parents' number written down and it's this number. Has it been changed?" I said, scratching my head and shaking my legs at my computer desk. "Look here, boy, this isn't funny. Where is your manners? We told you we ain't had no child, and we haven't changed numbers either. Not that a stranger should know that anyway. Now get on before I report you to the police for harassment." I ended the call. I ran downstairs and felt tears coming out of my eyes, but I held them back. I told my mom that wasn't the right number and she told me with a somber tone, "Well, I told you, I don't remember who that is, son. You've never really had a friend like that, and the closest thing to it was some neighborhood kids, but no one like you described to me." With a shaky voice, I said, "How can you say that when we have curses of some of our childhood hangouts together? I'll go get them now and watch them and show you." Running out of her room, I went into the upstairs closet and pulled out an old cardboard box. It smelled vaguely of mildew and was flaky to the touch, almost breaking at the bottom. I carefully sat on our media room table next to me and pulled out the old TV with the Kirk player in it we still have. I remember fixing it by disassembling it to pull out a broken red of cable that got stuck in the port when I was just 7 years old. I sat it down on the table and plugged it in. I looked in the box, moving past my birthing videotape, my first trip to NASA tape, and found one with barely any Crayola marker visible anymore on the label. But I could make out the words cruelly written by 3-year-old me, my first best friend Ryan. It made me smile slightly. I took it out and put it in the player. The seconds before the tape started felt like agony, but then an image appeared. It was me making one of those thick white-nosed paper airplanes. I cringed slightly at my craftsmanship as I could make one way better today, but it was a great feeling seeing this. Then I waited to see when Ryan would come into the video. I stood up and walked around the white leather couch, those kinds that have a bunch of connecting pieces. I walked to the bathroom and the lights were off from underneath the door. I called out, "Ryan, I'm done. Let's go outside and test them." Then I walked away to the back door across the room. The video continued with me just playing outside by myself. The video finished. The screen turned blue then black. The video ejected. I was perplexed. as to why the video ended so abruptly. I set the cassette on the side and sat there for a minute thinking about what I had just seen. I searched through the box for more cassettes and pulled out one that said 12th birthday. I put it on the TV and watched as the video came on the screen. "It's recording," I heard my father say as the camera focused on Great Wolf Lodge. I remember going to this indoor water park popular for its cabin wood aesthetic. A couple of my other friends from school came into the frame as we approached the entrance. Brimming with excitement, we were gestured to move to the side with the other parents while we checked in. "You have the joint family rooms with the children's section," the attendant said as he began typing on the computer. "Yes, ours will have the S family and the R family. We have 2 sons and they have 1, my mom told the attendant, pulling out her wallet. "And who is the birthday boy?" the attendant said with a face where you can't really tell if he truly likes the job or not, but nonetheless it betrays any doubts. "So I can hand out the birthday welcome gifts. Me and Ryan," I yelled while walking next to my mother. "Come on, Rain." The video cut to black right after. I nearly fell out of my seat with both anticipation and confusion. It suddenly returned and everyone was outside at the pool playing around. I came running to the camera, asked for a piece of pizza, and sat down next to my mom while my dad was out watching the other kids. "How are you and Ryan enjoying your birthdays?" my mom asked with a warm smile and what I now know as a frozen margarita. "We're having a great time. Thanks, Mom. I love you," I said as I quickly finished the pizza and threw the crust in the trash. "I love you too," she said. I briskly walked towards the diving board and jumped in the pool. The video cut off there and the cassette shortly ejected afterwards. I sat there scratching my head. At least I know that even my parents recognized Ryan in the past, but why did it seem the videos were tampered with or just missing whole parts to them? I rubbed my eyes with a sigh mixed with stress and tiredness. I took the cassette and placed it next to the last one. I looked through the box and moved past some birdscapes and family gatherings. Then I saw something, another tape, but this one had no title on it. To be honest, I was a little scared but just as curious to see what was on it. I placed the tape on the TV and waited with bated breath. The sounds of the tape turning made it feel like an eternity, and then the video starts. It's dark, not impossible to see. I mean, it's nighttime and the house lights are off. The only thing illuminating the scene is the moonlight coming through the window. I could tell the camera was set up down the hallway upstairs across from my room door. Were my parents filming me at night? I thought to myself. But before I could ponder on this, I saw something come out of my room. It was me. I walked towards the stairs and stood there for like a whole 3 minutes. Then I walked back to my room. Then I heard something from my room. "Yeah, I'm up," I said. I went to the restroom. "What do you want to do later when the sun comes up?" "That sounds cool. See you in the morning, Ryan." If my skin could, it would have literally crawled off my body and walked. I knew I was an avid sleepwalker and sleep talker from my younger brother, but talking to Ryan in my sleep? What? No. Why would I do that? That does not make any sense at all. I could not believe what I heard. I did not want to. I ran into my room and grabbed my phone, shaking. I put up his number, still favorited in my phone. I looked at it for what felt like an hour, then I caught it. It rang and rang and rang. "The phone number you have dialed is unavailable." When I woke up, the room was dark. I felt stiff. I could not move, but that was the least of my worries. My mind filled with dread as I realized I was looking at myself from the corner of my room. My body got up and looked in my direction and spoke at me. "Hey Joshua, it's been a while, right?"
Story 3.
I'm a detective who clicked a random link on an internet forum. The sound of the clock's loud chime snapped me out of my intense focus. I glanced away from the monitor in front of me. The clock had rang midnight. I had just finished finalizing paperwork. The case I had finalized wasn't as exciting as I'd hoped. When it came to my job as an investigator, I'd preferred something more thrilling. "I'm heading out. You're fine on your own, Anthony," I heard a voice say from behind me. I spun my office chair around and found myself being greeted by an officer, his tall, muscular frame leaning against the wall, coffee in hand. I flashed him a tired smile. "Don't worry about me, Dave. I'll be all right." Dave nodded and shut the door behind him. The room returned to silence. I usually left the office pretty late, but not this late. Dave leaving meant I was the last one in the building. The building was small and didn't have many people working there to begin with, but it was still unsettling at night. Yes, I'm a 26-year-old man who is still afraid of the dark. It didn't help that the light in my office liked to flicker occasionally and make this loud buzzing sound. I really needed to replace it. The thing that had been distracting me from making my way out the door was still displayed on my desktop. It was an internet forum post. Scrolling through forums was something I did in my free time when I finished my work for the day, sometimes when I hadn't finished my work too. That's why I stay late most nights, and I found something that had instantly caught my attention. Hello, this is the Destiny Church. We're contacting you to see if you're interested in taking part in our practices. Click the link below for more information. The post showed a screenshot of a message conversation, with that being the first thing sent to the receiver, followed by what was most likely the link. Although the poster scribbled it out in red, along with the church's number, the caption above the screenshot was a frantic poster ranting about the situation. I received this message earlier this week. When I clicked the link, it brought me to a fairly normal-looking website, showing very little information about this church. After looking at the website for not even a few minutes, the number sent me a message telling me my exact address. I closed out the site and blocked the number directly after. When coming home from work, I've had this dreadful feeling that someone is watching and following me. I don't know if this is just an internet joke and I'm being paranoid, or if something seriously bad is going to happen. Reading that last line sent a chill running down my back. I don't know why though. The poster probably was just paranoid. I clicked on the person's profile. Their profile displayed nothing but that post. On the sidebar it showed they made their account in 2018, just a few years ago. The post was made last week, so I found it odd they hadn't posted anything before that. The comments were nothing out of the ordinary for the internet. Some people were cracking jokes, a few insensitive but still receiving copious amounts of likes. It's just some guy with no life on the internet trying to scare you, or why would you click a random link you were sent anyway? You deserve whatever's coming were recurring themes. One comment was a little different from the rest. This should look sketchy, explore at your own risk. The person provided a link, most likely the link that the original poster wanted to hide for our safety. I mean, it's a public church, so I doubt it'd be that hard to find the website. I'm curious as to why the person who posted it scribbled out the link address anyways. I hovered my mouse over the link. I doubted it was anything actually dangerous. Over time I've learned never to trust most things on the internet, but I will admit I was curious. I paused and started thinking about the possible outcomes, but in the end, it could be fun to investigate. I tried not getting involved in internet investigations because most of them seem to turn out bad. The internet tends to do a lot more harm than good. There were only about 100 views, so I doubt it would become that big. I pressed the link. A black screen filled my monitor. I tapped the spacebar multiple times and continuously clicked my mouse, as one usually does when a computer freezes. Nothing happened for a few minutes. I ducked my head under my desk to turn my computer tower off, but was greeted with a much different version of my tower. I jumped up, knocking my office chair to the floor. Underneath my desk was a mess of sparking wires and a strong scent of burning plastic. I nearly tripped while running out of my office in search of the fire extinguisher. There's a first time for everything. Using a fire extinguisher was not a first time I expected to experience today. It took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to get the extinguisher and put the fire cat of hell out that was brewing under my desk. Let's just say my computer no longer looked like a computer, and there was definitely no way it was turning on again. Clicking the link was just a coincidence. It had to be. My computer must have been overheating for a while, and I didn't notice until it caught fire. I dropped the extinguisher and fell to the wood floor, sitting a few feet away from the charred pile of melted parts that was once my computer. I sighed and closed my eyes. I'm starting to think I should have just gone home. It took a few minutes of sitting there and contemplating all of my life decisions before I finally decided to leave. I've opened the front doors leading out to the parking lot. My hair was becoming messier as the cold breeze blew through it. People in high school often said I was tall and thin enough to be knocked over with a slight breeze, which I'm starting to agree with after being so easily knocked off my feet by this rain. The parking lot was big, similar to how a grocery store's parking lot is. Although I was the only one still in my building, the lot was shared, meaning there were still few cars left. Dave often checks on me most nights even though he works in the building next to mine. I started working here fresh out of college. Almost 2 years ago at this point, nobody really took me that seriously. No one ever really does when it comes to people fresh in the field. Dave was the only one who made an effort to get to know me. I really appreciate him. Crickets and the buzzing of the street lamps were the only sounds filling the air. The moon was barely visible through the dark, ominous-looking clouds. I flipped through my key searching for the one from my car. A flash of light along with a loud alarm startled me. The car I had been passing by started to go off like crazy. After a few seconds of me standing there frozen, it stopped. I bent down to pick up my phone and keys I had dropped. My phone had a large crack running across the screen that definitely wasn't there before. Today is really not my day. I could feel the weight lifting off my shoulders when I finally returned home. It was 3 by the time I got in bed. My apartment was very small, only made for one person. It was hard finding a well-sized, reasonably priced place in the middle of New York City. I tossed and turned in bed for about an hour or so. I couldn't scratch away the thought of getting up and looking into that link again. Look, I'm not one of those people who believes in outrageous conspiracy theories or anything supernatural. I want to convince myself it was my computer overheating. It's just too odd that the moment it caught on fire was right after I clicked the link. I tore the covers off and jumped to my feet. After grabbing my laptop, I sat at the foot of my bed. I opened my laptop. A picture of me and my mother when I was younger appeared on the front screen. A lump caught in my throat while looking at the bright background. I should really change it. I opened the page and found my way back to the post. A quick copy and paste later and I sent the link to my brother along with the description of what happened after I clicked it the first time. Aaron was a smart guy. My brother taught me everything I know when it came to computers and programming, although I'll never be able to do what he does. When we were younger, he'd pirate hundreds of dollars worth of video games without ever getting close to being caught. He was only 15 years old at the time, which has always impressed me. When I was 15, I barely knew how to tie my shoes. I seemed to have been the one looking up to him even though I was older. I haven't talked to him much since I graduated high school and left immediately after. The last time I saw him was at Mom's funeral months back. I'm still hoping he wants to hear from me. Half my reasoning for emailing him is out of curiosity about the messages and the link. The other half is wanting to get in contact with him again. I've been too scared to reach out without a good reason. I sat there waiting for a new message for 10 minutes. Aaron was always on his computer, so he should have at least seen it by now. I was about to close my laptop and try falling back asleep until I heard a pinging sound. A message reply popped up. You need a dark web browser to even access the website. You said your computer exploded, right? Could have installed a virus to your computer when you clicked it. I thought I taught you better about this stuff. What are you getting yourself into? Aaron's reply ended there. My eyebrows furrowed and my mouth was slightly agape. I was confused. What had I gotten myself into? I was surprised to hear myself laugh at that. I guess I found the situation a little funny. I would say I always expect the unexpected, but I should have expected this from the start. Tell me how to get to the site. Probably the stupidest thing I could have replied with. Aaron and I messaged back and forth for a while. I could tell he was worried about my safety, which was a little relieving. He knew no matter what he said I wouldn't listen. I had clearly set my mind on this and he knew that. After a while, I was able to get on the site. When I was finally on, it felt anticlimactic to say the least. It looked like a normal website like the original poster had described. The page had a simple white background with a few pictures of a church with an ugly green roof, followed by harsh black text displayed throughout. The text wasn't understandable. The words looked like filler text not meant to be an actual message. I was starting to get even more suspicious. I began to scroll down the page. After the first page, the rest were blank. I progressively began scrolling faster, but there seemed to not be an end. I zoned out and stared at the white pages flying by. I was getting bored. Then the page changed completely. I reached the end. I don't think end was the right word for it though. It brought me to a whole different tab. The screen was black again, and I felt my anxiety instantly peak. Memories of the computer fire earlier started flooding back. The computer didn't catch on fire, however. Instead, bright red text began to appear on my screen like a typewriter. The words read WHYREYOUHERE. Maybe a fire would have been better than this. The text disappeared and was replaced with new text. LEOVE was the last thing I saw before my laptop shut off completely. To my surprise, it did turn back on. No fire, but the page wasn't there anymore. Nothing was there. My whole laptop had been wiped clean. Maybe I should have listened to Aaron. Pulling into work the next morning felt off. I had to move to a different office down the hall due to mine being in repair. My boss ended up believing the lie I told about how my office caught on fire. I hadn't told anyone the whole story of what really happened that night. That might have just been my downfall. I continued my work as if it were any other day. Because it was any other day. I didn't believe there was any real danger since nothing had presented itself physically. I've gotten myself into all sorts of different dangerous situations in the past. This isn't anything I can't handle. I spent hours straight reviewing and filling out paperwork. Saying it was boring was an understatement. I put on some peaceful music in the background to drown out the unwanted silence. The flow of work stopped when I heard a knock on the door. I looked up and made eye contact with a small lady trying to quietly open the door to my office. I raised an eyebrow. I wasn't expecting any visitors. Hello. The woman stuttered, a frightened expression on her face. I'm Natalia. I greeted her and made a motion for her to sit on the chair in front of my desk. She looked fairly young, probably around my age. Her long blonde hair was set into 2 braids resting on the sides of her shoulders. A deer in headlights is what her big brown eyes reminded me of. Something had clearly frightened her. After averting her eyes and shuffling in the chair for a while, she spoke. I'm sorry to interrupt your work. An officer at the police station told me you'd be the best person to ask for help. Don't worry about it. I wasn't busy anyway. What can I help you with? I tried sounding welcoming. The tears welling up in her eyes made it hard not to. Well, she paused to take a deep breath. My son. He went missing a few months ago. The police concluded it as a runaway. They won't reopen the case, but I know my boy. No, he wouldn't run away. Can you describe your son for me? I flipped a pad of paper over and clicked my pen. A few tears started rolling down her face. His name is Toby. He's only 8 years old. He was always smaller than other kids his age. I'm sure he's the sweetest boy anyone could ask for. The way she talked about him sounded genuine and sad. I feel I failed as his mother. Detective, please help me find my boy. I questioned the mother a while longer. A feeling of grief lingered over our conversation as we talked about her son. I had only a photo of him to go off of. His smile was as bright as his eyes, his neat brown hair was gelled back, and his school uniform popped with white and green. I thought it'd be very difficult to find him with only a photo and already a few months of him being missing. Well, that was until the mom spoke again. There was always this one place in the woods he loved playing at. I've been checking it every day hoping he'd go there, but he never has. A sorrowful smile crowded her features. She took out her phone to show me a photo of him at the place. Toby was sitting on a log, smiling in front of a building. An oddly familiar building. I grabbed the phone from her hands, leaving her with a shocked expression. My mouth hung open as I stared in disbelief. Unbelievable. Behind the boy was a church with an ugly green roof. I found myself walking in the forest the next day. I walked deeper into the wooded area, progressively getting farther from my car. The sun was just starting to set, so I had to do this fast. For the next few minutes I followed the directions Natalia had written down for me, until I reached it. Before me was the infamous church. The green roof looked slightly better in person, but still pretty ugly. I walked around the perimeter of the building to inspect anything I could. No sign of the boy. I was avoiding walking into the actual church. An ominous aura was radiating off the building. I had a very bad feeling about this. The boards creaked loudly with each step I took. I paused at the entrance of the church to take in my surroundings. It looked very old and run down. The white paint was chipping off the wood walls. Benches sat in rows along the sides of the church. There were a few holes in the roof, those being the only source of light. As my eyes roamed around, they quickly stopped when they saw a flat white object resting next to one of the benches at the front. I cautiously approached it. My shoes splashed through the puddles on the floor of the church, most likely left by the rain from the day prior. The closer I got, the more apparent it became that it was a piece of paper. I bent down to pick it up. It was folded in half, the front reading to Anthony Breyer. My heart dropped when I saw my name written across a random piece of paper located in a church in the middle of the fucking woods. A whimpering sound from in front of the bench caused me to drop the paper. "What the?" I said aloud as I leaned forward to inspect the bench. On it was a small boy in a school uniform. It was Toby. I frantically crawled in front of the bench to assist the boy. His once white shirt was soaked with red. "Oh God, what happened? Toby, can you hear me? Stay with me, okay?" I took off the black hoodie I had been wearing and used it to soak up some of the blood. "I don't want to die," Toby whispered, trying to save what little breath he had left. "You're not gonna die, okay? I'll get help. Just stay here." I sprung up from the wood floor and sprinted outside. I swung my head from left to right in search of a person. My phone was still being repaired, so I had to find someone who had one. Tears started to build in my eyes from the overwhelming situation I found myself in. My focus shifted to a person. Thank fucking God. My relieved expression dropped completely when I noticed it was a group of people. Not a single face could be seen. Dark cloaks were worn among the figures and hoods covered their faces. What the hell? I backed away from the group, making my way inside the church again. I ran over to Toby. "Toby." His eyes were closed. I shook his shoulder in hopes of waking him up. "Toby, please, you have to wake up, buddy. We need to get you home. Your mother is worried sick." My efforts were useless. He was gone. I sat there in silence for a moment, trying to process what had happened. I remembered the paper that was still on the floor. I inched my hand over to the paper now stained with blood. Unfolding the paper, the page had neat cursive handwriting across the inside. "You killed him. This is your fault. You shouldn't have been nosy and gone to our website. It's not meant for you. You'll make a perfect cover-up though, won't you?" I stared at the words for a few moments, trying to keep my emotions under control. "I can't do this. This isn't real." Suddenly the door swung open and police started flooding the room with their guns drawn. "Police, get up and put your hands behind your head," one of the officers yelled. "You're under arrest for the murder of Toby Easton." I got up slowly and did as they said. This all felt like a dream. Just this morning I was going about my day at work, and now the police are pinning me to the ground and handcuffing me. Everything looked like it was in slow motion. I looked over at the paper. That paper would help me get out of this, right? Smoke. Outside the window was one of the hooded figures with a lit match emitting smoke. The police had their backs to the window, so I was the only one who saw as I tried to warn them. One of the officers put his hand over my mouth to stop me from speaking. The person in the window took their hood off to reveal their face. My eyes went wide and my jaw would have dropped if it weren't for the man keeping it shut. Toby's mother smiled at me before throwing the match through the window. I had been lied to. They used me. It wasn't water. The puddles were actually gasoline. Flames spread through the building in an instant. The officers noticed and dragged me out as quickly as possible. I watched as the fire covered the church. Toby's body was still inside. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. I wanted to scream. The officers didn't even care to keep this boy's body from burning. I would have rather them left me there to die than let the body of an innocent child burn. The officers were too focused on getting away from the fire to notice the people with hoods flee into the forest. The officer guiding me shoved me inside a cop car. I took a deep breath and tried to think of a way I could prove my innocence. The blood was still on my hands after all. If this is some sort of weird cult operating on the dark web, this could be a pain in the ass to get out of. "Anthony?" A man's voice came from the front seat. "Dave," I whispered. Dave's stunned expression turned into a frown. His eyes looked different. He stared at me in pure disgust and confusion. The only guy who talked to me and made me feel actually useful was convinced I murdered an 8-year-old boy in cold blood. The car engine started and Dave didn't speak another word to me. I turned my head to look out the car window. I sat watching as the burning church got farther and farther behind us. The image of Toby's bloody face couldn't leave my mind. The way he gripped onto me in his last dying moments. I wanted to help this boy and what I thought was his mother. But now everyone thinks I'm responsible for his death. Would Toby still have died if I didn't click that link? I'm sitting awaiting trial. How am I supposed to get out of this?